All right, we have made our way now to question 12 of Secunda Secundae in the Summa Theologica, and this is on apostasy. We, in the previous video, talked about heresy, and apostasy and heresy are not the same thing. There's only two articles in this question, so it's going to be kind of brief, but basically the difference is a heretic has embraced the Christian faith, but then distorts it. Although they don't throw it entirely away, they may distort a certain teaching or one or the other. Take somebody like Martin Luther. He remained a Christian, so to speak, but he took many of the teachings of the Catholic faith and distorted them and rejected some and accepted others, whereas an apostate rejects it altogether, as you can see, like in this this lady here. It's just like, nope. I'm out of here. I'm turning around. I'm no longer a Christian. So apostasy in many ways is even worse than heresy. Neither of them are good. Article 1 says whether apostasy pertains to unbelief. And Thomas says apostasy denotes a backsliding from God. This may happen in various ways according to the different kinds of union between man and God. For, in the first place, man is united to God in faith. Secondly, by having his will duly submissive and obeying his commandments. Thirdly, by certain special things pertaining to the, have you ever heard this word, supererogation? Supererogation. I had to look it up. It means performing more than duty requires, okay, such as the religious life, the clerical state, or holy orders, okay. So somebody may have taken a vow. They don't have to, but then they renounce their vow, okay. And so is that apostasy if they renounce their vow? He says, now, if that which follows be removed, that which precedes remains, but the converse does not hold. Accordingly, a man may apostatize from God by withdrawing from the religious life to which he was bound by profession, or from the holy order which he had received, and this is called apostasy from religious life. Okay, so Thomas clearly doesn't think this is right. If you make a vow and you're a religious, you shouldn't leave it. So there could be some degree of apostasy there. A man may also apostatize from God by rebelling in his mind against the divine commandment. And though man may apostatize in both the above ways, he still remains united to God in faith. Okay, so just because somebody is no longer going to be religious or a priest and they leave, it's some sort of apostasy, but they may remain in their faith, but they've apostatized from their vocation. But if he give up the faith, then he seems to turn away from God altogether, and consequently apostasy simply and absolutely is that whereby a man withdraws from the faith, and this is called apostasy of perfidy, P-E-R-F-I-D-Y, and in this way apostasy simply so-called pertains to unbelief. Okay, so not all types of apostasy have to do with unbelief, but the apostasy of perfidy certainly does. Article 2, the last one, whether a prince forfeits his dominion over his subjects on account of apostasy from the faith so that they no longer owe him allegiance. And Thomas says unbelief in itself is not inconsistent with dominion, since dominion is a device of the law of nations, which is a human law, whereas the distinction between believers and unbelievers is of divine right, which does not annul human right. Nevertheless, a man who sins by unbelief may be sentenced to the loss of his right of dominion, and also sometimes on account of other sins. Okay, so he's saying, okay, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Now, it is not within the competency of the church to punish unbelievers in those who have never received the faith, according to the saying of the apostle. St. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 5:12, "What have I to do to judge them that are without?" She can, however, pass judgment of punishment on the unbelief of those who have received the faith, and it is fitting that they should be punished by being deprived of the allegiance of their subjects, for this same allegiance might conduce to greater corruption of the faith. So if they are a heretic or an apostate and they leave the faith altogether, or they deny certain aspects of the faith, then people are not bound to continue to give them allegiance. All right, in order to sever others from the faith. Consequently, as soon as sentence of excommunication is passed on a man on account of apostasy from the faith, his subjects are ipso facto, by the fact itself, absolved from his authority and from the oath of allegiance whereby they were bound to him. Okay, so if somebody is a ruler, it'd be interesting to see this play out today, whether this would be the case. Let's say a president of the United States is Catholic and he is excommunicated. I could see it happening. Do we, as citizens of the United States, no longer owe him allegiance? I don't know that the church would say that these days, but St. Thomas Aquinas, back in the 13th century, said that that's the case. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a short question, 12 of Apostasy in the Summa Theologica. God bless you. St. Thomas Aquinas, pray for us.